Okay.
Great. Thanks everybody for dialing in to today's WEConnect International webinar. My name is Maggie Berry and I'm the Executive Director for WEConnect International here in Europe, and I'm delighted that you've joined us for today's WEConnect International webinar, Creating a Culture to Win. Our presenter today is Lara Morgan. She's a serial entrepreneur and investor and is the CEO of Scentered, a WEConnect International certified women's business enterprise. Today's session is, as I said, it's all about creating a culture to win, and whether that's winning over your staff and maximising all the brilliance that you have in the teams that work with you, or getting client buy-in to the innovative ways that you're running your businesses. This webinar is designed to give you the tools to enable you to get everybody on your side and going in the same direction. As normal, I'm going to keep everybody on mute just to keep background noise to a minimum, but you can please use the chat functionality for questions. And I know that Lara's going to check in throughout the webinar with questions. The session is being recorded, so you can listen back to it again. So thank you very much for joining us today. And Lara, thank you very much for presenting. The floor is yours, and it's over to you. Thanks very much.
Okay, everybody. I'm a great believer in sharing the warts and all. So if you go along and there are questions you want to ask at any time, do put your hand up. But I'm going to talk at you to some extent, perhaps for 30 minutes. And I'm only ever talking from my own personal experience, and I think there's a huge gulf of value when you don't know what you don't know and you have to work out culture for yourself. So I'm going to touch upon some points that I have learnt that I consider to be deeply valuable, because I think culture starts with yourself. Only you, the leader and founder of a business, can in essence set the cultural tone. Once you set the cultural tone, you've then got to live, breathe, preach, repeat it, have it tattooed probably on your inside thigh or something, and then keep repeating it and live by it and lead by example, which is actually what I was taught about leadership from the outset. So interestingly enough, none of us are, interestingly enough, it's a stupid thing to say. Everybody's different. When I asked my team to describe me, they said I'm a contradiction. Passionate, persistent, sensitive, thoughtful, determined but demanding, driven, direct, dynamic, thoughtful, strategist, and still a wife of mother of three. And what that makes me reflect on is that you always have to look to yourself and your own behavior and decide whether that's the winning culture as well that you can enact and live by. So, you know, I ran a business from the age of 23 until the age of 40, and most of the time I didn't know what I didn't know, but I was constantly trying to learn and grow. And I have to say that there's a huge advantage at starting young and becoming infectious with the honesty of the way you expect others to learn and grow. So I'm not going to talk about my soap story. You can read that in a book. And I'm going to talk to you mainly about the sort of reality check of how wrong I used to get it, and then how through learning and through feedback and through growth, I learned that if I could hone my own behavior, that the culture is the heartbeat of any company, and that because I'd also been brought up, I guess, with a sort of winning attitude and a progressive outlook, that if I led by example and applied that attitude to maximize the brilliance of all the brains that we employed, and recognized that by no means were my ideas always the good ideas, in fact often they were mostly the barking bad ideas, and if I spent a lot of time listening to the brilliance of the brains we employed, then potentially we would build a winning client business with the customer always at the heart of that strategy and thinking about sustainability. So how to build a win-win culture. I think there's so many facets here, but clearly the professional brilliance of an organization and its determination to grow, I think, is very much underpins the possibility of culture and strategy working, because people want growth, they want change. You may not think that people handle change well, we don't, but when it's communicated well and there's a team attitude, people would rather stay in a changing, growing, exciting, dynamic environment than in a culture that is same as, repetitive, and relatively dull, in my opinion. So I would suggest to you that the first thing to do is to set a sort of vision and mission for the business, which is traditionally talked about relentlessly, and so few people put it on paper. But until you decide what it is you're trying to do and the goals that you've got and the values by which you behave, and we had a sort of 5-point value system, which the staff put together about caring for someone each day, taking feedback and sharing lessons. These values changed over the years that we ran the business because we felt they needed to be refined. But ultimately, it's not just your values, but it's the values of common decency that run good business. So I think that can then become infectious in terms of the way you treat clients, in the way you impact customer service. And so I'm going to talk to you about some of the sort of very simple tactics, which are communication and education tactics, and then some of the madder stuff, which is about engaging people. It's not that mad, it's very simple, but some of it can be quite good fun. And other of it is just making sure you reward people in the way that they want to be rewarded. So my first, I guess, takeaway is, how many of you have a list knowing what is the favorite chocolate at the most basic level that each member of staff likes? Because, for example, I like all chocolate, but I have particular favorites. But I have other members of staff who don't like Maltesers, and they don't like this, and they prefer a Mars bar, but actually that matters because you've bothered to ask. I also ask them who their teams are that they support, and not necessarily football. I ask people where they like to go out to dinner. I like to ask whether they have a particular magazine, and at the basic level, when you join my companies, you get to share the kind of information that I need to know so that I reward you with whatever it is you need to be rewarded with. So in my case, Mandy was my PA, and I rewarded her because she said it always worked for her with a bottle of gin and a straw. And frankly, if I had been Mandy, I would have wanted a bottle of gin and a straw. So first of all, those simple things are really important, and the induction process and your recruitment process leading into that induction process are the difference between success and failure. And ironically, in the company shortcuts system that we train in terms of education and selling, which is one of the companies I helped set up, recruitment is the most looked upon area of the gifts on the website, which are templates and frameworks. And why is that? It's because people struggle all the time to employ the right people. But actually the truth is, I think people struggle to behave the right way, to keep the right people when they've got them, because they don't have enough honest conversations about the importance of expectations on the way in, and those expectations about being an A-grade player and understanding the heartbeat of the culture, and that people make up the difference, and that profit is driven from good practice and good people and good communication and good learning and progressive inquiries and continual improvement. You know, what sort of level of communication have you got in your business where people are allowed to put up their hands, or hopefully not send an email, but to have a conversation to say, I don't think this is going as well as it should be going. And the fact is that if you employ by rigorous recruitment standards an excellence of people, and some of you will be probably carrying someone in your organization, then you've got a much greater chance of success in terms of the cultural heartbeat. So when we recruited people, you had an aptitude test in maths and English, and you had a face-to-face interview. But you also had a second interview with some of the team at Pacific who were simply trying to get to know you and understand, you know, the things that turned you on and the things that rode your boat and the things that you were interested in, and to sort of sense check, is this someone that we could work with? Is someone who's got the right attitude? Because you can teach aptitude, but you can't teach attitude. Either somebody understands that in the early stage of a business, you know, lifting boxes and setting up exhibition stands and God knows what else is all part of the game, or they don't. But they also need to understand on the way in my view, to make culture successful, that results matter and that profit matters and that things are measured, and in return for good performance there is reward. So how well do you link your role description for the people that you recruit? How well do you link that to the key performance indicators that you brief when a new member of the team arrives? How well is that linked to the induction and training plan so that they really know how their job impacts others? And then finally, what is the shared reward mechanism, both for the business and the individual, and in some cases the department, so that everybody pulls together and you're not just an island? Because islands cause real problems in businesses, and most often leadership are carrying people because they're not brave enough to have the difficult conversations, and they're not really monitoring. And I don't particularly like the word monitoring, but I call it career development review. So I do think, and some people say today, I would say appraisals were out of date 20 years ago, but I think career development reviews where you show a genuine care for ensuring that someone's doing the job they want to do in the right place, at the right time, with the right terms of support. How well are you monitoring that that's what you're delivering? Because that's your promise as an employer. You've got to measure the right stuff, and you've got to check that the customer is kept happy, and the only way that the customer is going to keep happy is if your staff keep them happy. And that's fundamentally critical. So in an org chart, I sit on the bottom line of the page and I report to everybody above, and the customer is king. So the tier of reporting goes upwards to the customer because we are all accountable to the customer. And again, if you embed that in your culture, that the customer pays the bills, then everybody will be on your side. So I think role definition, just to repeat it, that is bonus linked, key performance indicators that are linked to career development reviews, annual and monthly goals, and you can set anyone annual and monthly goals, and also an understanding in the business that time is precious and that the cultural heartbeat is dynamic and that cash is king, but literally using terminology that you live and breathe by can change the tone of your organization, and I think that's very important. So the other thing that I think, and particularly women struggle from, and I mean, maybe I'm not meant to be in a female body. Somebody called me an A something the other day, not an arsehole, anyway. I think men just do this better in some way, but they sort of, maybe they're more simplistic, I don't know, but there's you have to trust people to build a culture. You have to trust people to grow a company. And if you don't have a good moral compass in terms of judging somebody, then get someone else to sense check the people that come in the door and subscribe to a very rigorous sense check around, is this person a decent human being? But ultimately, also, trust your own gut feel, and for goodness sakes, take references. References are really critical for ensuring that you get under the skin of an individual and that they know that you're a professional organization. I mean, the idea of not taking references is frankly barking mad, because it's your culture and it's your communication, and that matters. So I'm now going to move on to the communication piece of a good organization and a culture where change is the only constant. When you're recruiting people, are you asking the right questions? Are you making people aware that this is an organization that expects high standards? Are you challenging that they understand change is the only norm and that this is not a cushy number? You know, enterprise is dynamic. Different enterprises work at different speeds. The ones that make money, they work pretty quickly. That's because there's a constant learning journey. One of the things that we insisted on at Pacific is everybody understood that you do not stand still and that learning is critical, that you always need to have an understanding that you share the learning, that it's not just about the leadership. One of my biggest mistakes was I didn't invest in my own education until after 9 years. And then the epiphany that I had, where I went on a course and then I could share that learning, that was life-changing. And I know that that helped me with the culture of the business, because before then I had bad habits. I would shout across the room. I would interrupt people mid-calculation. I would not respect people in terms of thinking that, well, they work for me, they should work every hour. But the truth is you're the shareholder. So you also have to set boundaries on your realistic expectations. There is absolutely no question in my mind that a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with the idea that just because you've employed somebody, it doesn't mean you own them. And in culture, if you respect people's lives, the fact that they need to go to the dentist or they have to go to a nativity play, and that there's a trust that that time will be made up, then you will win time and time again, because winning comes from being flexible, it comes from being agile, it comes from being considerate. Frankly, it comes from being human. Sometimes you need to notice when someone's in stress. I mean, one of the reasons I've built Scentered is because I fundamentally believe that sometimes we need time out. We need to take a stop and breathe and inhale and reset. And sometimes if you live by your core values and you determine what you're trying to achieve and you share the vision, and everybody is aware of the strengths and weaknesses and even the opportunities and the threats of your business, then together the cumulative is more powerful. So we used to have events where people would stay in hotels and bring feedback. We used to have competitions to win nights away, but we supplied hotels with toiletries, so it was quite good fun and it always added value. The other thing is I think that there is a no guts, no glory proposition in the cultural piece, which is you start with looking at yourself and you then look at others and go, is this honestly the person with the right fit? Am I certain that I want to be sure that if I went on holiday, these people are going to gather around and they're going to go, what would I do? So I know for a fact when we were even a very little company, there was a language that said, you know, between Margaret, Rachel and Carol, you know, what do you think Lara would do? And they'd make a decision. And the point is that making the decision, allowing people to make decisions, giving them a level of accountability, encouraging them to progress the company, and understanding that if it goes wrong, it's not the end of the world, that will underpin positive progression. If you get angry, lose your temper, have the first car parking place, behave like an idiot in the office, and are not fair and even-handed, you will never build a culture where people become raving fans. At Pacific, we had people literally applying to go on file so that when another job came up, they could be on the list. So what do you do to involve all? What do you do to communicate well? What do you do to ensure that the culture is maintained? What we had is we had team brief every month. We had a sales sum reporting everyday sales against targets. And every year we had a company weekend away that allowed us to re-communicate the vision, the goals, the intentions of the year, usually a theme. And it's gutsy. People had to present, not just me, not just a talking shop. Just because I'm the leader, it doesn't mean I've got the best voice. And as you grow, you need people to step up and share the limelight, if you like, and share the pressure of being a decent manager. And what are you going to do about that? Well, we invested with Dale Carnegie, and we did How to Win Friends and Influence People, and we did Leadership for Management training, and we took people off to Cranfield, and we had internal coaches come in. And I think all of that training, where we were relentlessly communicating the importance of this is not a standstill organization, what can you bring to it, everybody has to grow. Although it is about the money and the profit, we want everybody to grow, because in growing together, then the company can afford greatness. So I used to always employ people telling them that I would get their ounce of flesh and hopefully they would give it willingly. But aligned to that, we would also have great fun. So it's okay to be the same, but to be outstanding. It's okay to challenge the status quo. It's okay to make mistakes and yet live to fight another day. Because success is not the key to happiness, but happiness is the key to success. And you have to keep your team happy. You have to make sure when you're doing performance reviews that they're happy doing the job they're doing, and that where they're unhappy, there's artillery and support to help them change the unhappiness, because people love to do what they like doing, and they're successful when they do what they love doing. But people are not successful and they lack accuracy, and they're not determined when they're doing something that they don't like doing. And you only have to look at yourself to know that that's the truth. So we struggle sometimes with putting sort of failure in our way, but not understanding that actually it's entirely up to us to set the structure of a moving organization, which is a flipping nightmare sometimes when you're growing quickly. I mean, there were stages where I just got to where the org chart of the business just endlessly seemed to change. But changing the picture and promoting people and giving people opportunity is all part of culture, and you will not do that if you don't have an ambition for growth, which is why I personally struggle with businesses that don't have growth ambitions, because I think standing still is not an option. Winston Churchill said success is going from failure to failure without a loss of enthusiasm. I have never lost my enthusiasm, but I will never stop making mistakes. So the key to success is not just hard work and determination, but it's also talking to people. but it's trusting yourself first with your gut to recruit the right team and to enjoy doing it and to set clear boundaries, but also to give, because you have to give to get and you have to trust. And in return, I have never been let down by the people that I have trusted and suggested that they time manage properly and improve their skills and find a daily routine and communicate well. Those that have never presented before learn to present. Those that have never been abroad learn to travel. Those that have never done something are challenged with challenging moments, and we coach them to overcome those moments. And everyone has to contribute. So people that are sitting in the wings and not growing within the environment where you expect good teamwork, they have to go. And it's not a debate. It's a conversation that says, I'll give you a chance, but we're going to have a reasonably balanced approach. We're going to do some reporting. We're going to assist you to change. But everybody has to contribute in a progressive company where change is the standard. And I think success can be found in sort of making people aware that a busy fool is not acceptable. But equally, you have to plan and work towards success. And that involves self-criticism and your own personal challenges around growth as well. So I'm just trying to think of any other of my notes. What else do I think is interesting? I think inviting the customer in is powerful. I think that if you invite the customer in, by which I mean you explain that the culture is real. I mean, we used to have supplier days. We used to have customer exchange days. We really, really felt that by getting the customer close and understanding our momentum, built confidence in our business. And by building confidence in our business, then frankly, you know, the only thing that restricted us was our own ambition. And if I reflect, even though I made a lot of money selling Pacific Direct, I do think that I should have set bolder goals. And even in tuning our engine, sales engine, operating engine, I just think the faster you make decisions, the better you learn, and the more opportunity you will, you'll sort of undig. So what else can I share with you about winning? I think small things count. So understanding human beings and knowing their route to work. If somebody wants to come in at 7 and leave at 4, as long as they're not in sales, which is a 24-hour job nearly, then let them go. Knowing whether someone likes chocolate cake or vanilla or Victoria sponge, that matters. Knowing how people like to learn. Do they like visually? Do they like with numbers? Do they like to go away on a course? If so, what's their part? We never ever had anyone taking education, whether internal or external, without sharing their top 10 learning tips. And I think that was really priceless. So, you know, people need to know within your organization culturally, what's the exact service point of the business? What's the unique selling point, or really the key differentiator that makes you better or different, whether you're an events company or a courier company? The fact is you have to have a different promise. So who's your target market? Does everybody understand what the key customers are? Does everybody understand that there's customer hierarchy because some people make more money for the business than others? Is there a 3-ring policy in your business? Because the 3-ring policy sets a standard that the customer is first and they shouldn't be kept waiting. Do you celebrate by employing someone in to do, you know, a neck and head massage, duvet day, or a picnic in the park? Do you do surprising things like, I went round to the park once and got the ice cream van to drive round to my office and just said, that became a terrific habit in the good days. And sometimes on a Friday at my management team and go, can you all stay because I'm going to let everybody else go and we need to man the phones. Christmas time, we used to shut the business. But when we say shut the business, management would be in during holidays of Christmas so that the customer was never let down. But it was management that did it, not the team. Why should the team do all the crappy jobs? Doesn't make any sense. The other thing is that you have to be deeply consistent in the mix of cultural creativity. So, you know, standing up and talking to people, gathering people round in village meetings. So we would get people to a meeting and we would say, can you write one thing down that you're really unhappy with one thing down that you're really delighted with, and one thing down that you want to celebrate that I may not know about, but I should know about because you want to share something a great colleague's done, or even share something that you think needs to be recognized, and that bit of paper in. It's important because that gives people the ad hoc way of just going everything from we need more teaspoons in the kitchen all the way through to I've got this traffic light system I started playing to stock and it speeds everything up because I can highlight the things we need to look at. And by the way, that came from interns, and the rule with our interns was they never made tea or coffee. Those were in the days when we didn't have coffee shops. Don't expect people to work relentless hours for you. You can work relentless hours, you're a shareholder. But learn that people need a life and then be flexible around it. I think there are some really small things you can do about flexible and agile working, particularly with women, where it makes just such a difference. But also, you know, we employed a guy whose wife had died of cancer aged 34, and Barry would be leaving the office at 3:30 every day because he needed to go and pick up young children from school. I know that the knock-on effect of us giving Barry a job when we were first looking to employ a full-time salesperson for inbound selling, I know that the knock-on effect that Pacific did the right thing allowed others to tell the story that we were a good business and we cared about people. And he's by no means the only story. There's Penny, who wanted to become a foster carer, and she gave me 18 months notice because she gave so much of a toss about Pacific Direct, but in her career development reviews, she knew that she wanted to go and do something else in her life. So how do you inspire to make disciples of your own team? You know, how do you encourage them to grow themselves and to set new challenges? Because it's not enough to give somebody a gym membership or, you know, small things. It is important to have life plans. And, you know, at the moment we're doing stuff like teaching people the importance of investment and how pensions work, and sharing ideas on how to gain better savings so everybody just clubs together. But also, you know, we used to do stuff like the Excel expert, as in the person who was the most expert in Excel. That person would teach everybody Excel one lunchtime in return for me paying for sandwiches. You know, these things don't need to be, that's my warning to me, they don't need to be ridiculously expensive, but they are important. And, you know, not everything needs to be gathered around alcohols. Everything, but, you know, there were times in our culture where we really needed people to step up and work harder. So we would have pizza on a night of the week where everybody had voted that that was the best night of the week to have pizza on. I think for the record it was Tuesday. I don't know why it was Tuesday. But, you know, if you want to really have a dream and deliver on the dream, you can't do it without a team, and you've got to have key principles. But you must recruit based on those key principles, because critically, if you don't have the person in the door in the first place that's got the potential, then nothing in the world is going to convert that person into a world-class performer in your culture, because you've employed the wrong person in the first place. The other thing is that you've got to be brutally honest that you will outgrow partners and all sorts of other people. So as you grow, as you outgrow people, you've got to have the management guts to do the right thing and decide, are they out or are they in a different role? You know, what's the mission for that person's job in the future? And have you given them enough time to plan it and understand where you stand? So guiding principles around what are your professional standards? Understanding that the customer is at the center of the business, but without people you have nothing. Building the firm one person at a time, but going with a gut feeling and recruiting on the way in with really clear expectations of world-class performance. Fostering an open and non-hierarchical working atmosphere is key to culture. Demonstrating with 3-ring policy and other basics that the customer comes first and we roll up our sleeves. So if we need to deliver flipping boxes on a Friday night, we deliver them. Being a professional member of the staff and understanding that you have a mission that is shared and reviewed and communicated and reported against, like in a team brief. Protecting what is the value of the business comes with trust, because you cannot tie down everybody with ridiculous confidentiality and unnecessary strictures, because you have to trust people and you have to share with them the mission statement and the objectives, but also access. Make access easy for people. Make the working environment easy. Make it flexible. And I would suggest employ part-time women, because I think they give you the best value that you can buy. Maggie, can we switch on to understand if there are any questions? Because I think I'm bored of my own voice.
Thank you, Lara. You've covered a lot of ground, even in just 30 minutes, and I've scribbled down. I've scrolled down lots of. There's quite a few people dialed in, so if you do have any immediate questions for Lara right now, please do use the chat functionality, and I'll keep an eye on that. Lara, I'm just going to start with 2 questions that were submitted in advance. So when people were registering, they asked some questions in advance, and one of the questions, I mean, you've obviously talked about, you know, your last comment was about make it work flexibly. One of the questions was, do you have any recommendations specifically for teams that cannot meet up regularly? I know many businesses now have, you know, teams everywhere. So yeah, anything you could talk to specifically about that?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, Maggie, is my background slide showing so I can reference some of the companies in the chat?
Yes, you can. Yes, your logo slides are all showing. Yeah.
So Scentered is probably the most challenging one, and the strap line of Scentered is restoring lifestyle balance naturally, brackets, please work your sodding socks off. It's an early stage fragrance company and it's really hard work. We don't have an office, right? We have my flat in London, but I'm here sitting in my home in the southwest. I don't work Fridays, and you know, we have this huge dynamism around the team where the other founders in Essex, I've got a member in Bath, Stevenage, London, some, and it's flipping expensive to move people around. So we have a Tuesday morning call, with as many can be in the room, inverted commas, or on that call, and there are notes that are taken whilst on the call and circulated 15 minutes after the call. So in effect, even if you miss the call, you could have been in the room, right? In addition to that, and in fact, when I look at this, Kitbricks is in the south, Dry Robe is in Braunton in the southwest, Yogi Bear is a very small man band in North London, Global Amenities is in Chicago, China, Hong Kong, UK, I think Bedford. Anyway, my point is this, right? I believe in getting people into a room if they can. If they can't, Tuesday checkup, we call it morning prayers. The sales sum every day to let everybody know where they stand, and every day may not be possible in smaller companies, so we do it every week with that. Monthly team brief, which is utterly priceless, and you have people, performance, profit, which is reporting, and then you have any other business, and anybody can contribute. And the team brief may not also be in the same room, but I would give my left arm to getting everybody in the company in the same room every quarter, but it's not affordable at the moment. So we do that once, maybe 3 times a year if I'm honest, but certainly not quarterly yet. And what I know is that as we'll grow, I will invest in getting those people together come what may, but what I will do is I will milk the opportunity for all it's worth. And there are some surprising things that you can do. So I'll give you an example. Recently in one of my companies, I sent everybody a gift from a company called Flapjackery. They make really cool flapjacks. I couldn't be sure that I wanted to send flowers again. But the truth is, as I said, have a flapjack with your coffee. Let's make this more interesting this time round. Something else that a friend of mine does who runs a social media company, everybody on the call sends a picture of where are you now, and she gets a choosing. So again, people feel like they're in the room, and you might have a picture of the garden, you might have a picture of, you know, the kitchen, somebody might have a picture in a tree house, but it's just showing that everybody's different, everybody's human, and that creates conversation. Yeah, I mean, I think getting into the same room is a massive challenge, particularly with modern technology, but you have to look at the upsides, for want of a better description, the savings and the lifestyle improvement, that when I put down my pen from home today, within 15 minutes I can go on a bike ride with my kids. And I think that you've got to share the balance between those demands and and the upsides, but people have to understand that that agility given comes with a lot of trust. And unless you really trust your team, and unless your team behave appropriately, then it won't work. But I hope that answers that question.
Brilliant. Thanks. I love the idea of taking pictures to show where you all are.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool at one time.
Yeah, I really like that. I mean, certainly for us as an organisation at WEConnect, I mean, you know, there is a head office, which I don't get to go to very much because it's in the States, but I've been once, and now I know what it looks like, and that made such a difference for me, just even knowing where they were when I was kind of calling in. So I love that.
I mean, the other thing is that when we were bigger, I mean, Pacific got very big, it got complicated, but you know, even in the years towards when I sold, we would fly people in from China, the Czech Republic, Singapore, Germany, Hong Kong, and it cost me a flipping arm and a leg. It was absolutely priceless because names to faces in the end, and the camaraderie. I mean, you know, some of those relationships became really important to people, and behind the scenes, those people are working their backsides off for our company. So they should be rewarded with experiences of going to factories if that's the way you do business or whatever.
Okay. Brilliant, thanks, Lara. So I've got another question, which I think you've kind of already covered off, but I'm just going to hone into one point of it. The question was around best strategies to engage teams, but to drive a culture of constant improvement. I just don't know if you have any more points you want to say about the constant improvement, that kind of keeping everybody going. And I mean, you touched on like team attitude and all. I don't know if you had any extra points on that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when you have exceptional months, exceptional results, when you're running exceptionally, then you can come outside the constant. So, for example, if you get to the end of a quarter and you just had the most humdinging win and, you know, the profit's good, share the profit for God's sake. You know, the payback will be vast. I think that consistency, so, you know, people will ask stupid things like, oh, relentless. I mean, as you get bigger, people ask more stupid things. It's amazing to me that people think companies should, you know, do all sorts of things that are just not normal in the premise of running a good small company comes with, you know, being flexible and agile. But you've always got to think, well, if I say yes to that person, then yes is the new precedent. So that's where I would say, and women are rubbish at this, you want to say no more often because no is easier in the long run. And I would say that, you know, having a staff handbook, as boring as it may seem, can keep you out of hot water. But introduce the staff handbook with a strong culture. So, you know, gather everybody in a room, get everybody to be included in the values, get everybody to buy into the strap line, whatever that is. So, you know, in Kit Brix's case, that is the best ever no fuss, just organized kit box system. Yeah, it's the ugliest bag on earth and it'll last forever. It's robust as you like. But what is the, you know, what is the joint standard of me working at weekends on a trade show and the rest of the team standards? Well, that consistency means, you know, whether or not I'm an entrepreneur, I still do weekends at the trade show. I went up to the London Triathlon show on my Sunday, and, you know, the fact is, why shouldn't I? I'm an investor in that company. I will still stand at Christmas time selling Scentered in trade shows, whether it's at the flipping freezing cold winter markets or otherwise, or else how can I expect my team to do the same? And, you know, I think one of the things we quite often forget in product businesses is that, you know, you can share the product. I mean, we've just invested in a brilliant company, Yoga Bear, amazing yoga mats, wheels, ladies, you need to have a look-see. But, you know, she's a tiny business, and I will, if need be, you know, shove boxes, pick goods, count stock, drive a van, because I know that in doing that, I can expect the owner of the business to do that. And, you know, as I get older, of course, there's less opportunity for me to do that. But I think leading by example, consistency is probably the greatest dividend, and I'm fed up with meeting people that travel in business class. I have always traveled in economy when it's on business.
Great. Thanks, Lara. So I've had a question that's been submitted by one of the ladies on the call. She's asked about, this is from Colette, and says, you've talked about a clear mission, but most people are now talking about purpose, why you exist. what practical tips do you have to share to embed both purpose and culture?
So I mean, you know, it's just a business change to some extent, but purpose, your reason for being can only come from the founder, right? What's the purpose of the company? Because people now join companies because they want to be part of a purposeful intent, and the young generation, they're much more circumspect about not just having a job for life. They want to do something in the world. By the way, they want to do it 4 minutes after they join, which is a whole other challenge. What I would say is that once you've honed what you believe the key points to your purpose are, to get buy-in, there is a brilliant system where you write, if you like, the mission statement of all. And everybody can challenge that mission statement, every line, every word, and it, but. So Pacific Direct started with a long mission statement that was along the lines of, you know, we will be the leading licensed brand provider of luxury toiletries globally, delivered by a world-class team. And it used, in the end, it ended up being great people delivering great products to great hotels. That's quite good. But the truth is that probably took 7 years of iterations at each company we can get together. Everybody was passionate about it. They really knew we meant what we said, and so that purposeful evolution. So if sustainability is within your core business, I mean, I'm anal about packaging, and at the moment, you know, I'm doing everything I can to minimize packaging and reduce wastage. Well, you know, at your interviews, what are you doing to test that people really get the purpose of sustainability? Are you asking them whether they believe in dividing their rubbish? Are you asking what they do when they make choices at the supermarket? You know, are they making it up, their answer, or is it a real answer that you can test? Because a lot of rubbish is talked about, but actually you need to dwell down into, so why do you do that? And when was the last time you were angry with a company because they overpackaged something? You know, are you asking purposeful questions at the interview stage to test, is somebody going to buy into restoring lifestyle balance or whatever? Does that make sense? I hope that answers the question.
Great, thanks, Lara. And Colette just said, love it, she's loving it. So thank you very much. Yeah, that was great. I've got another question. In your one of the points that you raised earlier, you said about inviting the customers in, letting them show that the culture is real. And you said that you had done something called, I think you called them customer exchange days. Could you share any more detail about that, and like how you did it? I mean, because I know for, you know, for a lot of people, just having ideas about what that could look like and getting input from customers in a different way.
Yeah, it's probably quite easy in our case because the hospitality industry, frankly, needs people. So we used to phone housekeepers and say, would you like a slave for the day? Now, in our company, it didn't matter whether you were in accounts or shipping, in sales or service, customer service, admin, doesn't matter, right? Everybody on entry did slave for a day in a housekeeping environment at a hotel. And that allowed them to learn that sometimes beds are changed at 13 rooms a day, and sometimes there's 19, and there's 2 people, and it's like World War III. And it made them appreciate how flipping tough it is to be an executive head housekeeper or a housekeeper working their way up. And it allowed them to respect why it was important to have soap in a cupboard as a replenishment stock, or that goods were delivered properly marked for storage, because the scale of delivery into a hotel environment is absolutely horrific. And the more that we could teach our team on the inset, what is the industry we serve and how do they operate? Because you can't assume that people understand hotels. Not everybody stays in them much. So us finding industry experience by saying to customers, can you know, we have dry robe staff working on stands at events, walking around events, talking to customers, obviously trying to sell products as well. But with Gate 8, you know, it's really important that we go to City Airport and talk to consumers. So we help City Airport sometimes because we want to be on airside. I've only just bought Yogi Bear, but I'm just trying to think, you know, we do partnerships with people like Equinox, and we recently did one with Ferrari where we have a press pack. But our lady, Kat Hither, who runs the business, she's a trained yogi, so she's prepared to go and give teaching classes, even though she's, you know, now running her own product company, and it's brilliant. because that will help sell products. And it's important that we understand what's happening in yoga studios. So Kat goes to a different studio every few days to sense check what's happening in the yoga world. And so the payback is two ways. The other thing that we used to do is we used to invite suppliers in for a brainstorm on how we can improve our product, packaging, service, order system, invoice system, you name it, what can we do better? And the fruits of those engagements were fantastic. And then finally, there used to be this thing where we would just phone up really cool companies and say, look, we've got a couple of people that quite like to visit your warehouse. So we went to Reebok and we went to some quite cool product places so that we could learn how we could be better and different as we grew. And those things pay dividends.
Fantastic, thank you.
Hope that helps.
No, great. And I've got another question, just from a lot of what you were talking about earlier is about the team, is about having trust in your team.
Yeah.
And around, I've got a question. I don't know if you have any insight to share about that hiring process, the recruitment process, and making sure that you're having a bit of hit rate at getting the right team.
It's got to be rigorous. I mean, it's got to be more than one meeting. It's got to be not friends and family. It's got to be intelligently planned. It's got to be well documented when you interview so that you score against certain criteria. You know, there's not all point having an interview unless you have a standard measurement criteria, because then you're not scoring everybody equally and fairly and evenly, and you'll get what you deserve, which is an unplanned result. You know, how many times do people go into recruitment meetings and not use the same template to mark each person on the key criteria of the role? You know, and stop talking yourself and start listening to the person when you're interviewing, because although I do believe in trying to sell my company strongly to someone, because I really, really want to get them excited about, you know, working in my business and being involved in change, you know, I obviously want to try and punch above my weight and employ really talented people I can't afford, so I have to convince them that they're going to be a special lunatic asylum. And that has worked really well. Does that answer the question, Maggie?
Yeah, no, that's great. I just wondered if you had any insight. I know recruitment and a team and getting the right people, that's something that I've heard a number of the business owners talk about, and just how challenging it can be. And also what you've just raised about, you know, punching above your weight or hiring, getting talent to come and join a small business compared to them just going off and getting a job, I know, with a big brand name.
Yeah, but I think that's also got common sense. How well are you selling the flexibility of your environment? How well are you selling the excitement of working in a fast growth place? How well are you selling the fact that you bother to train? How well are you putting in the effort so that people really get excited about being involved and coming in? Have you painted your corridors yellow? You know, what have you done with your staff to say, you choose, what do you want to do? Do you want rounders this year, or do you want to join a dragon boat race? You know, this stuff is just common sense.
Yeah.
And I also think, frankly, and it annoys me, women annoy me in business because they're a bit wet a lot of the time. And that is, we too many times don't just go, oh, sod it. Let's ask the direct questions. Let's make somebody really uncomfortable in interviews. Let's see whether they bristle. Let's see how they behave under pressure, because that's what the boys do. And then there's no surprise.
Okay. I haven't got any more questions come through. I've just put a final comment on the chat. If anybody's got any final questions for Lara, then please do type it in just now. Otherwise, I think we can kind of start to wrap things up. Lara, I don't know if you've got any. I know you've shared so much, and as you said at the very beginning, that this has all come from your own personal experiences of growing and building your businesses, and now in the role that you're in, working with all of these different brands. Any, I don't know, final couple of top tips that you would share with everybody today?
When thinking about a winning culture, it's flipping hard work to create a winning culture, but it's the most valuable time that you can invest, because the best thing that you can get in the world is consistency of a team that literally fight for the quality of people that you can have gathered around you. I am not always the one that employs the brightest person in the pack, but I will always employ the attitude of the person. and a determination to get a job, and to want the job and to bring innovation. I think innovation and getting people to present at interviews to make the recruitment process rigorous really helps as well. You know, if you want professional grown-up people, you've got to put them in a position where they have to behave like professional grown-up people. Sounds a bit ridiculous, but you'd be amazed at how weak some interview processes are. And then the other thing is, Maggie, just to say to you, because I always ask for a bit of payback, if anybody goes to any of the websites on this holding page and likes what they see and they want to buy anything, my gift is Lara20, which is a code that they can apply to any goods on the site. But also, if they've got products that they want to buy for corporates or giveaways, do approach me. Because ultimately, every opportunity with every engagement that we have with people to sell our product, to promote what we do, to be passionate and infectious about the brands that we invest in, we need to take advantage of those things. And sometimes, the best thing you can do is save yourself time by stopping an interview the minute you know it's not right. Stop sitting in rooms and wasting your day. Do you know what I mean, man? Does that make it clear?
Yeah. It can be really hard, and it's tough to do that, isn't it? Yeah. And it feels very uncomfortable, probably. Well, I would say.
So you know what? You've just got to try it. I mean, I've stopped an interview within about 6 minutes. The guy already had pissed me off because he walked slowly down the corridor, and I'm thinking, you're not dynamic. And the way he sat in his seat, that annoyed me. And I just thought, you know, you're just not showing enthusiasm here, so I'm going to test this, and then we're going to stop. And if that sounds cruel, welcome to the real world.
Brilliant. Well, Lara, thank you so much. As always, this has been hugely insightful, and I really appreciate taking the time to share some of your experiences with everybody today. I will, as I said, the session's been recorded, so I'll share it with everybody who's dialed in and everybody others who weren't able to join us live. But thank you to you for sharing. Thank you to all of you who've dialed in to listen back. I hope this has been as useful for me as it has been for you, as useful for you as it has been for me. I've written down loads of different things just, you know, for us here at WeConnect. So, and Lara, thank you. A reminder for the Lara20 code as well. Everybody, I bought some of the Scentered candles to say as a Christmas present for some people who've done some great work with WeConnect last year, and so many of them came back and said just how beautiful they were. So please do take advantage of that one. Brilliant. Thank you very much, everybody.
Take care.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.